Hello there my Jedi and Sith friends, my Mandalorians and Megalorians, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, we have some more reveals for the Mandalorian and Grogu. It's been a month full of new information, TV spots, teaser trailers, and today, Lucasfilm has given us a brand new look. There is so much to break down in terms of references to some other Star Wars projects, the Clone Wars, the prequel trilogy, there's a lot of Solo, even Book of Boba Fett. And generally speaking, it really is what Jon Favreau promised, a love letter to the Star Wars he grew up with, but also the Star Wars franchise in its entirety. We have a lot to break down in terms of the new scenes, but I would be remiss not to begin with the behind the scenes. And I just want to remind you of something Pedro Pascal said a few weeks ago. In his interview with Empire magazine, he spoke about being blown away by the sets. He mentioned that he broke the rules of production and filmed some of it on his phone. And he said, quote, "As soon as I'm allowed to, I'll post them." But as we await Pedro's POV, we do finally have an official look. We see immense, enormous sets. And I have to be honest, I didn't expect them to look this good. And I think this is going to reassure fans who are concerned that the movie's going to look the same as the TV show. In my opinion, there's a very clear upgrade. And I have to say my favourite of these immersive environments is the Hutt throne room. Just look at the amount of detail on the ceiling, the walls, the floors. It looks incredible. And it makes sense this is one of the sets with the highest amount of detail because Favreau is a self-confessed Hutt fanatic. And I just want to reiterate, because I have seen a couple of questions about this, that most of these scenes were filmed using the volume, but the upgrade in terms of the scale of it is very apparent. I for one am very impressed. And if they ever make a Disney Gallery episode for this film, it's going to be a must-watch. But now guys, we have to talk about the individual new scenes. And we begin with Din and Grogu arriving on Nal Hutta. This is where we get a lot of our droid questions answered, because look how many are guarding the twins. Do you remember this guy? The mercenary guard droid. He was the subject of so much speculation and so many fan theories after they revealed the toys. Well, it seems like fans have found him, and he's one of several similar types of guard. These guards are a mishmash of different types of Clone Wars era separatist droids. You've got some super battle droids, some good old-fashioned B1s, and even droid commandos. And I also noticed this guy on the right. I think he's an AAT driver droid, also known as jungle battle droids, or as I called them back in the day, Kashyyyk battle droids. They've got those green camouflage jungle markings on them, with a bit of influence from the design of Morgan Elsbeth's HK Assassin droids. And to me, as a prequel fan, and this is just where my brain went to, there is no connection, some of these evoke Grievous's Magna Guards, with their capes and their electro staffs, but some really awesome designs. And when it comes to the super battle droids, especially the ones who are going to defend the Hutts and disrobe Mando, there's actually someone inside the costume. That's a really awesome detail from the behind the scenes look. And then guys, we have this frame, which has been in circulation since D23 2024, but this is the first time it's being shared online, in HD, made public, and it's Grogu and the Anzellans, not in a mouse droid, which I think was the original theory, but in the Anzellan ship, which we finally get a proper look at, and was revealed in a Lego leak. The Anzellans in this movie are called Bay, Clang, and Keto, and it's a really clever move to include them because to the average cinema goer, they're just Babu Fricks, the same species as the droid smith from The Rise of Skywalker. And you know, we talk about potential cameos in Star Wars films. Well, a younger Babu Frick is far more likely than Luke, Han, or Leia. But at the start of the video, my friends, I mentioned a reference to the Book of Boba Fett. It's not one for one, but we finally see the return of Vespers. That was one of the more controversial aspects of that show, the colourful mod gang. Notably that they didn't fit the aesthetic of Tatooine. They look a bit too urban for desert life, and would better suit the aesthetic of Coruscant, or Dayu, or Janix. And so with the Mandalorian and Grogu, it's a bit of an improvement, because they fit the aesthetic of the bustling underworld streets. And here, there are a couple of other Easter eggs that are very easy to miss. This unidentified background species appeared in both Obi-Wan and The Mandalorian Season 3, and then this species first appeared in Solo: A Star Wars Story in 2018. But without a doubt, one of the biggest reveals from this teaser, my friends, is that R5-D4 is making a return. The rebel hero astromech originates in A New Hope, but he's become a staple of The Mandalorian, and in the third season he was sold to Din. So for those hoping we're returning to Tatooine, and therefore we're going to see Pelimoto or Boba Fett, I don't want to burst your bubble, It is possible, but I don't think so. In this behind the scenes shot, R5 is on a Delphi base with Zeb, Din Djarin, and Grogu, but it's great to see him back, especially after helping Din on Mandalore. And I think it's worth remembering that R5 is one of the most important characters in all of Star Wars. When he malfunctions in A New Hope, it's deliberate. R2 told R5 the importance of the message he was carrying. So when R5 was initially chosen by Owen and Luke, R2 reiterated the galaxy was doomed, and R5 was their only hope. But realizing how important the mission was, R5 loosened the hinge on his headplate, and so when it popped off, Luke thought that R5 had a bad motivator, and so in his place, Lars instead purchased R2. In a way, R5 is one of the most important characters to the Rebellion and to the general Skywalker saga. And thankfully R5 is not going to be alone on Adelphi. We know there are various other astromechs and the new BDX droids. But returning to some of the new scenes, I know Jon Favreau said this is only one of several fun action sequences in the film, but I just can't get over how badass the AT-AT infiltration scene is. Din Djarin kicking snowtrooper butt. We also get some really fast-paced sequences with the STAP, and I have to say the entire movie looks like it was made for upgraded cinema viewings, so obviously IMAX, but if you have a 3D cinema or a 4D cinema near you, I can imagine that being worth it. In the new promo, Pedro Pascal literally says, after the movie's done you'll feel as though you've been on a roller coaster ride. And that's really what this film is all about, a fun adventure in the galaxy far, far away. I think it's going to be really accessible to casual fans, and while I think it might have a solid story with some progression of the characters, it's a very different type of Star Wars project to something like Ahsoka. I don't think it's going to be as deep in terms of the themes and the lore, so if you go in with that expectation, I think you're going to have a better time. And so finally, my dear friends, I just want to address something I spoke about in my last video. The composer of the movie, Ludwig Göransson, teased that at one point, Grogu goes to a quote, special place, where he spends time on his own, and we learn more about him. The most obvious place he's talking about is the forest of Nal Hutta. I kind of speculated that there's a chance it's Dagobah, or that at some point we do go to Dagobah, separate from these scenes, but the new promo does seem to confirm it is going to be Nal Hutta. A lot of what I said does still stand. We're going to learn more about Grogu and get a really introspective look into his fears, his insecurities, and maybe more flashbacks. I do just want to say though, it's very curious so much of the promotional material for this film concerns the Hutts. I wonder if they're in the early part of the movie. We haven't seen anything other than one still that shows us Johnny Coin. So it's kind of like what John said the other day, that a lot of the film has been kept under wraps, and it looks as though from this new frame, Din Djarin deals with the Hutts, kills the Hutt twins. Rotta, according to the rumors, is a big part of the entire movie. He's gonna survive, but not the Hutt twins, not Jabba's cousins.